All right, everybody, welcome back. We are with Gary Kibel from D&D, Davis and Gilbert, law firm here in the city, and Gary's honing in on privacy, an FTC final ruling that has come out. Gary, why don't you pick up? Go ahead. This is segment 2.
Sure. As we were saying in the first segment, there are some very high-level principles that apply to every industry doing business online or in the interactive space. Then the FTC started to focus on some specific industries in which they had concerns. The web, believe it or not, is a more mature platform versus mobile. And the FTC is very concerned about the mobile space, the number of smartphones that users have, the amount of data that's being collected and transmitted over the mobile space. The FTC is concerned that the mobile industry is not doing enough to provide disclosures to users and give them choices. Now, of course, mobile is much more challenging. It's harder to make a disclosure on a small 2x2 or 3x3 screen versus a website. But the FTC is encouraging the industry to be creative, to be proactive, and to really work to give consumers simple choices on mobile. So what this means for those who do business in the mobile space is that they really need to come up with specifically tailored mobile disclosures that are brief, that are very clear, and not just have a simple link over to a website privacy policy, which on a mobile device could take you 20 screens to read. That's not going to be acceptable. Another industry which was specifically called out in the FTC report is that of data brokers. These are sort of the folks in between the consumer-facing services and other businesses, data brokers who collect large quantities of data, aggregate this data, sell it to different parties. The FTC has a concern that consumers don't know who these data brokers are. You may think about credit monitoring and Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, these large companies. There are lots of different types of data brokers out there, and they have tremendous amounts of data on consumers. Consumers don't know who they are and don't have the ability to tell these data brokers to delete data, correct the data, or restrict how it's going to be used. I think this is going to be a very hot issue in trying to figure out what applies. Firstly, what is a data broker? The way the report was written, it could potentially be so broad that a data broker is any company that has a large database. There are many companies that have large databases. Anyone who might have a big email address list of consumers. So defining who a data broker is important. The FTC also did endorse the idea that if there is not progress in the self-regulatory area, that Congress should enact legislation to control this area. There were hearings in Congress this week. It was interesting that one congresswoman spoke up and said, where is the consumer uproar about exciting interactive online services? But the question is, how much control do consumers expect to have over their data? And are the current uses of data not in compliance with their expectations? I mean, I would think, Joe, to sort of, wrap up what this means for businesses out there, I think it means that they should look closely at their services, not just to determine is there a privacy policy or disclosure, but is the context of the service clear to the user what's going to happen with their data, and are they really giving consumers enough choice and information all throughout the product cycle so that users are not surprised by how their data is used?
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that, Gary. I think people do have to have a sense of what they own and what they don't own and where their data and their information is going. There's no doubt about that. Let me ask you this, just as we've got a few seconds to wrap up here. A couple of points have come up here. What is non-sensitive data? And is there a legal term or is there a framework on reasonably linked? These could get into legal terms, and then of course to demystify, de-identify. These I read through the report and I was saying, wow, are these specific legal terms which during a court case would be ferreted out more, or is this something else that our viewers should be listening about?
Sure. I mean, during the past, I would say 10 years in the privacy world, we had this distinction between personally identifiable information, what might be known as PII, or non-personally identifiable information. And many viewed that as a bright line. Either data has my name and my email address or my social security number, or it does not, and it just contains aggregate, anonymous information, such as, my age range, whether I'm male, the state that I live in. And what the FTC is saying is that this bright line is being blurred because it is possible to have such granular data that does not include a user's name or email address, but it can still identify them. You could have enough data points on an individual that you'll be able to figure out who they are without their name. So this bright line distinction no longer exists. The bigger concern is making a distinction with what's called sensitive data. It's one thing to have a user's name and email address. It's a very different thing to have their social security number and their bank account number, or to have information on their minor children. So the FTC is concerned that we make a distinction, and the point is that not that this information can never be collected and used, but if it is collected, really hit consumers over the head with the disclosure so they know before they give this data how it's going to be used, because it is sensitive data.
Very good. All right, and we're kind of up on time here. Maybe at another time we can get into a couple of these other terms as we go forward. Gary Kibel, Davis and Gilbert, a great law firm here in the city. If you have any needs, give Gary a call. Gary, what's your phone number down there? A business call.
Number is 212-468-4918, and the website is dglaw.com.
All right, Gary, we certainly appreciate it. You've come on the program before, and hopefully we'll hear more from you in the future. Thank you again, Gary.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, bye now. See you, everybody.